The torches flickered in the cold morning wind as Marcus Aurelius Decimus stood before the massive walls of Carthage Nova. The siege had lasted 47 days now. His men were tired. Their food supplies were running low. The enemy had prepared well for this battle, and the walls seemed impossible to break. Marcus was a centurion of the 10th Legion. He had fought in many battles across the known world. He had seen blood and death in Germania. He had marched through the burning sands of Egypt. But this siege was testing his patience like nothing before. The city sat on a hill surrounded by thick stone walls. Every attack had failed. The battering rams broke against the gates. The siege towers were burned by Greek fire. Arrows rained down on his soldiers whenever they approached. The defenders had enough food and water to last for months. Marcus knew that time was not on his side. General Scipio called him to the command tent that evening. The general looked exhausted. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. Maps covered the wooden table, showing every detail of the enemy fortifications. "Decimus," the general said, "we cannot continue like this. Rome expects victory. The Senate grows impatient. We need another way." Marcus nodded slowly. He had been thinking the same thing. Brute force was not working. They needed something else, something unexpected. "Send scouts around the perimeter," the general ordered. "Every cave, every drainage channel, every old well. There must be a weakness somewhere." That night, Marcus selected his best men for the mission. Gaius was a young soldier with sharp eyes. Titus was an older veteran who could move silently like a ghost. And there was Lucius, who had grown up in the mountains and knew how to navigate underground spaces. They moved through the darkness around the city walls. The enemy watchtowers cast long shadows in the moonlight. The scouts stayed hidden, checking every rock formation and every depression in the ground. It was Lucius who found it first. Near the eastern side of the hill, hidden behind thick bushes and old broken rocks, there was an opening in the ground. It was small, barely large enough for a man to crawl through. The rocks around it were ancient, much older than the city above. "Centurion," Lucius whispered. "This is not natural. Someone made this." Marcus crawled forward and looked into the darkness. A strange breeze came from inside, carrying an unusual smell. It was not the smell of earth or water. It was something metallic, something he had never encountered before. They entered the tunnel carefully. Lucius went first with a small oil lamp. The passage was narrow at the beginning, but it slowly became wider. The walls changed from rough stone to something smoother. Marcus touched the surface. It felt like metal, but it was not cold like iron. It was warm to the touch. "By Jupiter," Gaius breathed. "What is this place?" The tunnel continued deeper into the earth. The walls began to glow with a faint blue light. There were no torches, no fires. The light came from the walls themselves. Strange symbols covered the surfaces, patterns that looked like writing but in no language any of them recognized. Marcus felt fear growing in his chest, but he pushed forward. A Roman soldier did not retreat from the unknown. He conquered it. The passage opened into a large chamber. The ceiling was high, disappearing into darkness above. In the center of the room stood a structure made of silver metal. It was shaped like a tall pillar with many arms extending outward. Lights blinked across its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. "This is the work of the gods," Titus said, making a protective sign with his hand. Marcus stepped closer to the pillar. As he approached, the lights changed color. A humming sound filled the chamber. Then, from nowhere, a voice spoke. The voice was not in Latin. It was not in Greek or any barbarian tongue. Yet somehow, Marcus understood every word. Biological life form detected. Species, classification, human, temporal origin, Earth, approximately 2,000 years before standard calendar. Fascinating. The soldiers drew their swords. Marcus looked around for the source of the voice, but saw nothing. Do not be alarmed, the voice continued. This is an automated observation station. It was placed here by the Galactic Survey Corps approximately 15,000 years ago. You are the first intelligent beings to access this facility in 10,000 years. Marcus lowered his sword slightly. The voice did not seem threatening. It seemed curious. What are you? He asked, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I am an artificial intelligence, a thinking machine created by beings from beyond your sky. My purpose is to observe and record the development of life on this planet. Your species has shown remarkable progress. You were using stone tools when this station was established. Now you build cities and wage wars with metal weapons. Most impressive. The soldiers exchanged confused looks. Marcus understood some of the words, but the meaning was difficult to grasp. Beings from beyond the sky? Thinking machines? You're inside a tunnel that leads beneath the human settlement above, the voice explained. This tunnel was created for maintenance access to the observation equipment. It was not intended for use by native species. Marcus suddenly realized the opportunity before him. This tunnel led under the city walls. It could bypass all the defenses that had stopped his legion for 47 days. Where does this tunnel end? He asked. The primary exit point is located beneath a structure in the center of the settlement. Your species would likely call it a temple or administrative building, the heart of the city, right in the center where the enemy commanders gathered. Marcus could hardly believe what he was hearing. Can we use this tunnel to reach that point? There was a pause. The lights on the pillar flickered in complex patterns. This presents an interesting situation, the voice said. My protocols prohibit interference in the natural development of observed species. However, you have discovered this facility through your own efforts. Providing information about existing infrastructure does not violate non-interference guidelines. Yes, the tunnel is accessible to beings of your size. Marcus turned to his men. Their faces showed a mixture of fear and excitement. They understood what this meant. We return to the general, Marcus ordered. Say nothing of the strange lights or the speaking pillar. We report only that we found a tunnel under the walls. As they prepared to leave, the voice spoke again. Centurion Marcus Aurelius Decimus. I have observed your species for many cycles. You are violent and primitive by galactic standards. Your conflicts seem wasteful and unnecessary. Yet there is something in your nature that interests my creators. Marcus paused. What is that? Persistence, adaptability, the refusal to accept defeat. When obstacles appear, your species does not surrender. You find another way. You dig tunnels under walls. You cross mountains that should be impassable. You sail across waters that should swallow you. This quality is rare in the galaxy. Most species accept their limitations. Humans do not. The Centurion considered these words. He did not fully understand talk of galaxies and creators, but the observation itself made sense to him. Rome had not become great by accepting what others said was impossible. We are Romain, Marcus replied simply. We do what must be done. Indeed, I will record this interaction for my archives. Perhaps one day, when your species reaches beyond this small world, we will meet again under different circumstances. The soldiers made their way back through the glowing tunnel. When they emerged into the night air, Marcus felt like he was waking from a dream. But the tunnel was real. The opportunity was real. General Scipio listened to the report with growing disbelief. A tunnel under the walls, leading directly to the city center. It seemed too good to be true. You are certain of this, Decimus? I walked it myself, General. The passage is wide enough for 2 men walking side by side. We could move 500 soldiers through before dawn. The general studied his maps. 500 soldiers appearing inside the walls would cause chaos. They could open the gates from within. They could capture the enemy leaders. The siege would end in a single night. Prepare the men. We attack before sunrise. The operation began 3 hours before dawn. Marcus led the first sentry into the tunnel. The blue lights still glowed on the walls, but he had ordered his men to ignore them. Focus on the mission. Ask no questions. They moved silently through the underground passage. The warm metal walls seemed to watch them as they passed. At one point, Marcus thought he heard the distant humming of the strange pillar, but he did not stop. The tunnel ended in a small chamber beneath the enemy temple. Stone stairs led upward to a hidden door. Marcus pushed it open carefully and found himself in a storage room filled with ceremonial objects. The enemy had no idea they were there. The attack was swift and devastating. Roman soldiers poured out of the temple like ants from a broken nest. They caught the defenders completely by surprise. Panic spread through the streets. The city gates fell within the hour. By sunrise, the Roman eagle flew above the walls of Carthage Nova. General Scipio stood in the conquered city square as prisoners were marched past. He put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "The Senate will hear of your discovery, Decimus. You have given Rome a great victory." Marcus accepted the praise, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He was thinking about the voice in the tunnel, about beings from beyond the sky who had watched humanity since the age of stone tools, about a future where humans might reach beyond their small world. He did not understand most of what the speaking pillar had said, but one thing was clear. The same determination that had won this siege, the refusal to accept impossible walls, would one day take humanity to places no Roman could imagine. The tunnel entrance was sealed after the battle. Marcus made sure of that himself. The strange place beneath the earth would remain a secret. Rome was not ready for such mysteries. But the centurion kept the memory close to his heart. On quiet nights, when he looked up at the stars, he wondered if the watchers were still there, still observing, still recording the progress of a species that refused to accept limitations. And somewhere in the darkness beneath forgotten ruins, blue lights continued to glow. A patient machine continued to watch. And the universe continued to wait for the day when the persistent, adaptable, impossible humans would finally step beyond their small world and take their place among the stars. That day would come. The Watchers knew it, and they had all the time in the universe to wait.